Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the live lecture of Real Analysis 1. In the last lecture, we have seen an important theorem which tells us that whenever a function is bounded and integrable, then its modulus function, that is mod of f, is also bounded and integrable. Also, we have proved modulus of integration is less than or equals to integration of its modulus. We have proved this stepwise by constructing the relation between the bounds of the given function f and mod f, and this relation mi dash minus mi dash less equal by capital M I minus small m I will give us the relation between the bounds. Once we establish the relation between the bounds, our job is to multiply by delta x and just add it over the corresponding parameter I, which with the help of which we can prove that the given function is integrable. Then we have seen one more theorem that whenever a function is integrable, then its square function is also integrable, right? And the next we have seen is one corollary where it shows that whenever the two functions are integrable, then their product is also integrable. We have proved this as one of the theorem also. We are going to prove this as a corollary of previous theorem also. Just to prove this, what we have done, we have expressed this product of functions in terms of algebra addition and difference of the square functions. We know the square of the functions are square of integrable functions are integrable. That's why by using this we have proved that the product of two integrable function is also integrable. Okay. Later we have discussed one sum called as a Riemann sum. In detailed discussion we have made in the last lecture. I'll just recall that in the Darboux definition of integrability, we have dealt with the two different sums, upper sum and lower sum. While defining upper sum, we have taken the suprema of the given function in the given subinterval. That of in lower sum, we have taken infima of the function in the given subinterval. But whatever the suprema infima we were taking, those are not necessarily the function values. Those are the function values only if the function is continuous, defined on closed interval, etc. Therefore, knowing these are not necessarily the function values, what Riemann has done, Riemann has replaced this infima or suprema by an arbitrary function value of a arbitrary point in the given subinterval. That is, if I take ti to be an arbitrary point in the ith subinterval, then its corresponding function value will be say f of ti. Whatever this is called as Riemann sum. And if we just have a look to this geometry of the corresponding Riemann sum, some part of the region is above the curve, some part is below the curve. That of in upper sum we have seen that the area lies above the curve, lower sum area lies below the curve. Therefore, this Riemann sum is actually a mixture of both the upper sum and lower sum. And very similar to upper sum and lower sum, if we increase the number of points in the given partition, that is, if we refine the given partition, then whichever the area is above the curve will come towards the curve, and whichever is the area below the curve will increase or will go towards the actual area. Whenever this whatever SPF we were saying, whatever SPF we were considering, if we take limit as n tends to infinity, that is, if we increase the number of points in the given partition, if it is exactly equals to the area of the given curve, we say that the function is integrable. This condition n tends to infinity, one can be equivalently write to mu p tends to 0. Therefore, this is the second definition of integrability. Now, in today's lecture, we will write the definition, second definition of integrability, and we will see how both the definitions of integrability are equivalent to one another. Okay? Any difficulty in the Riemann sum?
No, ma'am.
For here we will write this is the second definition of integrability. What is the first definition of integrability? Yes, students, what is the first definition? First or Darboux, na? We have said Darboux condition of integrability. What is Darboux condition of integrability? Yes? Have you forgotten?
UPF.
Yes? Yes, someone is giving the answer. It is correct.
UPF less than integration a to b bar f dx plus epsilon.
I think you are mentioning the Darbox theorem. We don't want Darbox theorem, we want the definition. When you are going to say that the function is integrable, इंटिग्रेबल कधी म्हणणार आहात फंक्शन तुम्ही? आपण एक्झाम्पल मध्ये कसं प्रूव्ह केलं
Upper
फंक्शन? हा राईट. येस ईशा.
upper integral is equal to lower integral.
Yes, very good. Upper integral is equal to lower integral is the Darbox condition of integrability. Now in this, by using a Riemann sum, we were writing the second definition of integrability is a function is said to be integrable. Integrability I have written. Let me just correct. A function is said to be integrable on closed interval a b if. What if limit mu p tends to 0 SPF exist, then if limit SPF exists, then what we were writing, limit mu p tends to 0 SPF is equal to integration a to b f dx. Okay, that is mu p tends to 0 is actually equivalent to say n tends to infinity. Whenever we increase the number of points of the given partition, whatever is this region shown in the sketch, the above region, the region up to the upper side will come towards the actual area. The region lower to the actual area will go towards the actual. Whenever this integration, whenever this limit exists, and it is equal to this actual area, and whenever we were able to find out the actual area, we say that the function is integrable. Therefore, here what we have written, limit SPF is equal to a is the actual area of the function, then we can say that this is nothing but the integration value. Is that okay? Here I am just going to put a note, okay, that mu p tends to 0 implies and implied by n tends to infinity. Correct, no? These two are equivalent, what I wanted to say is it okay? Now we will try to establish the relation between equivalence between the two definitions of integrability. Darbox definition of integrability we will call as first definition, and this is the second definition of integrability. Is that okay? Shall I write it somewhere? What is the Darbox definition of integrability? Darbox definition of integrability. Correct, na? And we call this as first definition, right? This is we call as first definition. And the definition says that f is integrable. Yes, f is integrable if and only upper integral f dx is equal to lower integral.
Lower integral.
And we were writing this as actual integration a to b. Is it okay? This is the first definition.
Yes.
Now we will see the equivalence between the definitions. Equivalence of two definitions of integrability. Okay. Now to prove the equivalence of between any two statements, we were generally proving 1 implies 2, 2 implies 1. Correct now? Therefore in this also we were considering the two parts. Okay. In this first we were going to prove that definition 1 implies definition 2. Okay. That is Darbox definition of integrability implies the Riemann's definition of integrability. This is what we were going to see. That is definition 1 will be an assumption, and our aim is to show it gives us definition number 2. Is that okay? So let me write definition number 1, that a bounded function f is integrable according to former definition. Former means first, no? So that, let me just write the definition. Integration a to b upper bar f dx, upper integral, integration a to b lower integral is exactly equals to integration a to b f dx. Okay, and we have proved one of the theorem known as Darboux theorem just now someone has mentioned. So let me make use of the Darboux theorem to show that it is integrable by the second definition as well. For this, let me select epsilon be any positive number, correct? Any positive number. Now we'll write the Darboux theorem. By Darboux theorem, yes, what the Darboux theorem says, there exists some delta greater than 0 such that for every partition, remember your exams are offline, therefore you have to write all the proofs. It is not similar to the giving the online exam for this semester. Okay. If norm p less than delta we have. Okay. Let me just write it on the next page. What we have by Darboux theorem? UPF. Yes, tell me, strictly less by what?
A to B bar
Yes.
of D.
Very good. A to B bar f dx plus epsilon. But now as I am assuming the function is integrable by first definition, can I replace this upper integral by the actual integration? Both are equal, no? Let me call it as statement number 1 say. Similarly, lower sum LPF is greater by lower integral plus epsilon, right now?
Minus epsilon.
Minus epsilon, yes. Someone is listening me. A to B f dx minus epsilon, let me call it as statement number 2. Now in order to construct the Riemann sum, what one should start with? One should start with an arbitrary point Ti of the ith subinterval, and we will try to establish the relation between LPF, UPF and the Riemann sum. Right? So let me start with, let if Ti be any point of ith subinterval, no, xi minus 1 to xi, comma, we have, what is the relation between f of Ti, capital Mi and small mi? Yes. Capital Mi is the suprema of the function in the ith subinterval. Small mi is the infima of the function in the ith subinterval. F of Ti be an arbitrary value of the point Ti in the ith subinterval. What should be the relation between the three? Chiasal relation? Yes, it is less equal. To this side also?
Less equal.
Yes. Arbitrary function value always lies between infima to suprema. Okay. Then, now we will, how can I convert these values to the corresponding sums? If I want to convert this mi to a sum, what we were doing?
L of P, comma F.
Now, what should be my step? या एम आय ला मला यूपीएफ करायचं आहे तर याला मला काय करावं लागेल माझी स्टेप काय असेल
डेल्टा एक्स
yes multiplying by delta xi and adding over
I.
I equals to 1 to n. Okay, therefore here can I write directly, this is lower sum and this is summation I equals to 1 to n f of Ti delta xi. This middle is Riemann sum, no? We call it as statement number 3. Okay, now look at this equation 1, 2 and 3. May I write this LPF is greater by this term and this UPF is less than by this right hand side. Okay. What we have? Integration a to b f dx minus epsilon is strictly less by LPF, where this LPF is less equal by summation I equals to 1 to n f of Ti delta xi, which is again less than or equals to UPF, which is again strictly less by. Yes. integration a to b f dx plus epsilon. Our aim is to establish the relation between which values? Our aim is to establish this second definition. No. What is this second definition? This is the second definition. Or can we write this second definition in terms of epsilon delta notation? I forgot to write it here only. Let me write it in the epsilon delta notation. How can I write? Limit fx tends to a. Correct? No. How can we write? Modulus SPF minus integration a to b f dx less than by epsilon for, yes, for mu p minus 0 less than delta. Correct? No? This is what we were going to prove. Now coming to this next step again. Yes. Now may I just skip these middle terms and let me write the values. Integration a to b f dx minus epsilon. This middle I can write as SPF less than or equals to. Oh, is it less than or equals to or strictly less? Is it less than or equals to or strictly less? What should I write here? This term is strictly less by LPF. LPF is strictly less by SPF, where UPS is again strictly less. Therefore, here we should have strictly less relation, right? Okay. Now what I will do? I will just subtract integration a to b f dx throughout. So what I am getting? SPF minus integration a to b f dx strictly less than by epsilon. Okay. Some term lies between minus epsilon to plus epsilon. Therefore, can I say that modulus value is less than by epsilon? Is that okay? See, this was the situation, na? Minus epsilon less than x less than epsilon. How we were writing this as mod x less than epsilon. No? That is what I have done here. Okay. What we have proved? Mod of SPF minus integration less than epsilon. But when this is true, initially we have written a mod of UP less than delta. Therefore, here I will write this is whenever. Whenever what? Mu p less than delta. That is, I can write mod of mu p minus 0 less than delta. Therefore, by looking at this definition, may I write it in the limiting form as limit mu p tends to 0 SPF is equal to integration a to b f dx. Okay? Understood this fact or not? Any difficulty? If you have, you can ask. Mod of fx minus, this generally we were writing for limit definition, no? Limit x tends to a, f of x is equal to f of a. How we were writing in epsilon delta notation? Fx minus fa less than epsilon whenever mod of x minus a less than. The same we have proved now. This is less than by epsilon. This term is less than by epsilon whenever mod of mu p minus 0 less than delta. Therefore, limit mu p tends to 0 SPF becomes integration a to b f dx. Hence, this is the second definition of integrability. Therefore, may I say thus the function is integrable by definition 2 also. Is it okay? That is, we have proved that definition 1 implies definition 2. Now the job is to go for the second part. Now in the second part, what we were trying to prove, we will start with definition 2 and we will show that it will imply definition number 1. Okay. What is the definition? Assumption in the definition 2? Limit SPF exists. Limit SPF exists, and our aim is to show that upper integral is equal to lower integral. Let me write, let a function here. be integrable according to definition 2. Okay, what is the definition 2 tells us? That is limit mu 2 tends to 0 ESPF exist and equal to integration a to b f dx, or you can write directly equal to, no problem. Okay, now what we will do, in order to prove upper integral is equals to lower integral, we will start with one partition again. Over here which I just mentioned, in other words, to every number epsilon greater than 0, there exists delta greater than 0 such that for every partition let me consider the arbitrary partition, say x0, x1 to xn with node mu p less than delta, and for every choice of points pi in xi minus 1 to xi, there exists a number. Just we were elaborating this definition. Capital A such that. What the definition says that integration modulus SPF minus A less than epsilon. What this A is actually? Area, no? Correct, na?
Yes, ma'am.
Less than by epsilon, let me call it a statement number 1. This is what we have in our hand. Now, in order to prove this second definition 1, that is upper integral is equal to lower integral, first we will try to show that the function is bounded. Okay? Here I will write just first we prove that the function is bounded. Okay, what will happen? To prove this result, we will start with a contradiction. What will happen if the function is not bounded? If possible, let us assume, if possible, let f is not bounded. Not bounded means what? At some point, we were getting unboundedness. Okay, at some point of the given domain, right? Now, if it is not bounded in some point of the domain, by making a partition, suppose that the point where the function is not bounded, say it is going to lie in one of the subinterval. Therefore, first I will just ensure this by equation number 1 by putting the value of a is equal to, epsilon is equal to plus 1. Say, okay. Over here I'll just write, taking epsilon is equals to 1, there exists a partition. For every epsilon we were saying, no, there exists a partition. But particularly for epsilon equal to 1, now I am assuming there exists a partition such that for every choice, for every choice of pi in ith subinterval, what can I write by using this above? Just let us put epsilon as 1, summation strictly less than by 1. Okay, can I write this as mod summation f of pi delta xi strictly less than by mod a plus 1? Okay, this can be less than by mod a plus 1. Now what I am saying, as our assumption is the function is not bounded, correct, no? Function is not bounded somewhere in the interval a to b where we were making some partition. Function is not bounded means actually it is taking an infinite value. Then for the corresponding partition of the given interval x0, x1 to up to xn, say, let me assume the point where the function is not bounded is going to lie in some mth subinterval. Okay, in the mth subinterval. And what for the rest point? For all the rest subintervals, may I say this inequality is going to satisfy. Okay, only for the point ti in ith subinterval this will not be satisfied. Why it is not satisfied? Actually, f of ti is not bounded, means f of ti is reaching towards infinity. Correct? No? F of ti is reaching towards infinity. If f of ti reaching towards infinity, what about this value? May I say f of ti delta xi will also reach towards infinity. Is that okay? And what about the summation? Will also tend towards infinity. If it is tending towards infinity, may I say this less than mod a plus 1 is not possible. This term having a value less than mod a plus 1 is not possible. Why not possible? Due to the assumption function is not bounded, and where the point at which the function is not bounded, assuming it is lying in the mth subinterval. Therefore, this will be a contradiction to this statement less than this value less than mod a plus 1. Therefore, whatever the assumption we were making that the function is not bounded is not true or not correct. Therefore, we have to just write some clarification. Okay. Here I will write as f is not bounded in closed interval AB, it must also be so in at least one subinterval. Okay, let us take ith subinterval. Let us take ti equal to xi for I not equals to m, so that every ti except tm is fixed. And accordingly, every term of some summation f of ti delta xi is also fixed. Correct na? F of ti delta xi except the term. Except the term. Which term? त्या समेशन मधला कुठली टर्म फिक्स नाही येणार, फक्त f of tm delta xn is fixed. लक्षात येते का बघा मला काय म्हणायचंय? टी आय बाउंडेड नाहीये असं आपण अज्युम केलं तर तो कुठल्या तरी एका सब इंटरव्हल मध्ये ऍटलीस्ट एका सब इंटरव्हल मध्ये बाउंडेड येणार नाही. बरोबर? म्हणजे त्या पॉइंटला त्या सब इंटरव्हल मध्ये तो फंक्शन काय व्हॅल्यू घेणार आहे? इन्फिनिटी कडे जाणार आहे ना. नॉट बाउंडेडचा अर्थ काय? फंक्शन नॉट बाउंडेड. याचा अर्थ काय? व्हॅल्यू काय असणार आहे त्या फंक्शनची त्या पॉइंटला? काय असते व्हॅल्यू? नॉट बाउंडेडचा अर्थ सांगा मला. बाउंडेड असेल तर काय लिहितो आपण? mod of f of x is less than or equals to some constant. बरोबर ना?
येस मॅम.
ओके, मग नॉट बाउंडेड याचा अर्थ काय? ते लेस दॅन ऑर इक्वल्स टू होल्ड होणार नाही ना. कुठेतरी एक फंक्शन व्हॅल्यू अशी मिळणार आहे मला जी लेस दॅन ऑर इक्वल्स टू सम पॉझिटिव्ह कॉन्स्टंट येणार नाहीये. याचा अर्थ ती व्हॅल्यू काय होणार आहे? इन्फिनिटी कडे जाणार आहे. ठीक आहे, ती व्हॅल्यू काय होणार आहे? इन्फिनिटी कडे जाणार. आता ए टू बी या इंटरव्हल मधल्या एखाद्या पॉइंटला फंक्शन बाउंडेड नाहीये असं मी जर अज्युम केलं तर तो पॉइंट आपण कुठे घेऊया बाबा? एम सब इंटरव्हल मध्ये घेतला तर मग एफ ऑफ टी आय काय होणार आहे? इन्फिनिटी. मग आता ही जी टर्म आपण लिहिली की नाही, समेशन एफ ऑफ टी आय एक्स आय, याच्यातल्या प्रत्येक टर्म्स फिक्स आहेत. कुठली सोडून? एमथ टर्म सोडून ना. बट एमथ टर्मला आपण काय म्हटलेलं आहे? फंक्शन टीएम ला हा बाउंडेड नाहीये असं अज्युम केलं आपण. बरोबर आहे का? लक्षात येते का सगळ्यांच्या? याचं रिझन काय येणार परत? सिन्स एफ इज नॉट बाउंडेड in mth सब इंटरवल म्हणूया ना आपण. mth सब इंटरवल. mth सब इंटरवल मधला पॉइंट टीएम आहे. त्या पॉइंटला हा फक्त फिक्स येणार नाहीये ही व्हॅल्यू, कारण एफ ऑफ टीएम काय होईल त्याच्यामध्ये, एफ ऑफ टीएम काय येणार आहे, इन्फिनिटी कडे जाणार आहे, बरोबर आहे. ओके, इज नॉट फिक्स्ड. ओके, मग आपण काय करूया, एक पॉइंट चूज करूया. वी कॅन चूज अ पॉइंट m in mth subinterval such that, what such that, कशी व्हॅल्यू सिलेक्ट करणार मी, ही समेशन जी आहे ना एफ ऑफ टी आय डेल्टा एक्स आहे ही ग्रेटर देन बाय मॉड ए प्लस वन. ग्रेट ऍक्च्युली आपण म्हणतोय ही टर्म जाणार आहे इन्फिनिटीकडे, तर अशी व्हॅल्यू सिलेक्ट करता येईल का मला, टी आय ही जी ग्रेटर देन बाय मॉड ए प्लस वन होईल, इन्फिनिटीकडे जातोय म्हणजे करता येईल ना. and which will be a contradiction. कुणाला कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन आहे हे, वर लिहिलं होतं ना आपण एक स्टेटमेंट. काय स्टेटमेंट लिहिली होती, मॉड ए प्लस वन ला इक्वेशन नंबर नाही दिला का आपण, let me call this as 2. This is a contradiction to 2. आणि आपण 2 मध्ये काय म्हणतोय, summation mod f of t delta x आहे always less than mod a plus 1. But function f is not bounded assume केल्यामुळे आपल्याला काय येते हे greater than, which is the contradiction. Hence f is bounded. Is it okay? f is bounded. चला आता पुढे जाऊया, आपल्याला इंटिग्रेबिलिटी फर्स्ट डेफिनेशन चेक करायची. ओके, now let me make a small star here. Now let epsilon be any positive number. आता परत पहिली डेफिनेशन लिहूया. देन देयर एक्झिस्ट डेल्टा ग्रेटर दॅन 0 सच दॅट फॉर ऑल पार्टिशन P with norm P less than delta we have काय आहे आपल्याकडे, mod of SPF minus a less than epsilon. Actually you are writing, but let me write epsilon by 2 for the sake of convenience. This is from statement number V1 we were writing. Correct na? This is my statement number 1. This is SPF minus a less than epsilon. Okay, now from this SPF now we were trying to construct LPF and UPF. In the previous one we have done exactly reverse. Okay, can I write it as minus epsilon by 2 less than SPF minus a less than epsilon by 2. Let me add a throughout, therefore this is a minus epsilon by 2 less than SPF less than a plus epsilon by 2, and let me call it as statement number 3. Okay, what the statement tells us, SPF value always lies between a minus epsilon by 2 to a plus epsilon by 2. Now SPF is actually summation f of ti delta xi, right now? Okay, now what we will do, we will try to vary this point ti in ith subinterval. We will try to vary this point pi in ith subinterval such that once it coincides with the suprema of the function and once it coincides with the infima of the function. This is what we were trying to do. Let me show you how. This is my interval a to b. Suppose this is the x1 and x2, the partition we have made. Okay, now let me just mark these points. Okay, now ti is actually an arbitrary point we were finding between every subinterval, and then we were going for f of t delta x. Now here we can observe very easily, for this point we were getting capital M1. Okay, for this point suppose we were getting capital M2, for this point we were getting capital M3. Ti is the point actually which is varying on this interval. You can take ti to be any point in this interval. Now what the job we will do, we will vary this ti over this alpha subinterval such that once you will select ti such that its f image will give me the suprema. Once we will vary this ti so that it will give me supreme. लक्षात येते का मी काय म्हणते बघा. टी आय हा पॉइंट आहे ना, पहिल्या सब इंटरव्ह्यू मध्ये थोडासा फिरवायचा, वेरी करायचा, जेणेकरून तो एखादा पॉइंटला अशा कोइन्साइड झाला पाहिजे जिथं त्या फंक्शनचा सुप्रिमा मिळतो, आणि एकदा असा कोइन्साइड झाला पाहिजे तिथे त्या फंक्शनचा सुप्रिमा मिळतो. ओके, मग मी म्हणू शकेन का पुन्हा, फर्स्ट लेट मी व्हेरी दिस टी आय टू गेट द suprema of the function, and if I get the suprema here, what kind of summation it will be? It becomes UPF, correct no? TI पॉइंट असा सिलेक्ट करायचा जेणेकरून f of TI MI यायला पाहिजे, कॅपिटल MI यायला पाहिजे. मग कॅपिटल MI डेल्टा XI हा UPF होईल. आणि एकदा आता व्हेरी कसा करायचा, स्मॉल MI येईल असा करायचा. मग तो सम काय होईल, MI डेल्टा XI म्हणजे लोअर सम. मग पुन्हा हे दोन्ही सम कुठे असणार आहेत, a मायनस इप्सिलॉन बाय 2 आणि a प्लस इप्सिलॉन बाय 2 च्या मध्ये येते. लक्षात येते का मी काय म्हणतेय?
हो मॅम.
ओके, तर आता आपण व्हेरी करूया. टीआय ला असा व्हेरी करायचा, एकदा तो सुप्रीमा दिला पाहिजे आणि एकदा तो इन्फिमा दिला पाहिजे. लेट मी जस्ट राईट इट. इफ we let the points ti, if we let the points ti range over, or I can say vary over the intervals, xi minus 1 to xi, and take LUB and GLB of the numbers SPF obtained. Okay, if I take suprema, it gives me UPF. If I take infima, it gives us LPF. If I take LUB and GLB, that is suprema and infima of the numbers SPF obtained in this way, 3 yields. This has to be correct, no? This has to hold, no? What we were getting actually, once I vary this TI to get the suprema, it becomes UPF, and this UPF is again less by a plus epsilon by 2 to a minus epsilon by 2. Again, if we vary this to let over infimas, it will give us LPF. Again, LPF lies between the two, and the relation between LPF and LPF we know obviously. Correct, no? Actually, it is giving us two different equations. LPF lies between a minus epsilon by 2 to a plus epsilon by 2. Once this SPF gives you LPF, and once it gives you UPF. And we were going to combine both of them. How can I combine both the inequalities? By knowing the relation between these two. Okay? Concept is very simple if you understand, right? Okay. Now to prove upper integral is equal to lower integral, first we were going to check the condition of integrability. That is to show UPF minus LPF less than epsilon. For this, I will just make the partition of the interval inequality over this, so that we get two inequalities. Okay, and let me just add both the inequalities and check what is the value of UPF minus LPF. Adding, I'll get UPF plus A minus epsilon by 2 strictly less by LPF plus A plus epsilon by 2. A will be cancelled on both the sides. And let me shift this LPF on the left. It becomes UPF minus LPF. This minus epsilon by 2 shifted on the right will give me epsilon by 2 plus epsilon by 2 plus is equal to epsilon. This is what an adjustment made here, epsilon by 2. Is that okay? So what we have obtained, UPF minus LPF less than epsilon. But here we cannot say it is the first definition. This is the condition of integrability. Okay. So let me call this as some 4, na? Number 4. Okay. Again we will write the relation between these sums and upper integral and lower integral. If you have not forgotten, LPF is always less than or equals to upper integral, sorry, lower integral. Lower integral is less equal by upper integral, and upper integral is less than or equals to upper sum. This we have. Again, let me just divide the inequality over this part and let me check the value. And what we will do? We will make a addition again. For adding we get, what we get adding? LPF plus upper integral less than or equals to UPF plus lower integral. Is that okay? Now let me construct UPF minus LPF term. Let me take integrals on the left side, sums on the right side. But what we know, UPF minus LPF is always less than by which equation? Number 4. By 4, this is less than by epsilon. What we have? Upper integral minus lower integral is less than by epsilon. Again, what we know from this? A non-negative quantity. This is non-negative quantity, no? Upper integral minus lower integral. This is non-negative, no? A non-negative quantity less than by every positive. What is the only possibility?
0.
Yes, 0. Okay, since epsilon is arbitrary, every non-negative term number I can use, but no, term I write number which is less than by every positive number is equal to 0 is the only possibility, right? So what we were getting? Upper integral minus lower integral is equal to 0. Hence, we are getting a first definition of integrability here. Okay, what we have proved, that the function is integrable by definition 1 also. Okay, therefore, can we say both the definitions are equivalent then? You may use any definition while solving the example or while proving the theorems. Yes, any difficulty if you have, you can ask. Yes, students. आहे का काही अडचण कोणाची यावर?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So we have started with definition 1, we have proved definition 2 and vice versa also. Therefore both the definitions are equal. Actually what happens while solving the examples, we have to go for a lengthy process if we use definition 1. That we have solved some examples. What we have to do? We have to find upper sum, then upper integral, lower sum, lower integral. Unless that, what we can do by this definition 2, we will find only one sum, Riemann sum. We will check its limit. How can I check a limit? Either n tends to infinity or mu p tends to 0. Check the limit exists or not, and if the limit exists, surely the function is integrable. Therefore, while according to this point of solving the examples, definition 2 will be easier. Okay? Therefore, let me show you by solving the example. So, It is so easy to solve the examples by this definition. I think some linear function we have solved, no? Is it f dx 1 to 2 f of x equal to some 7x plus 3? This type of example we have solved, no? By using first definition. Right? Yes, students. Right or no? काय मेथड वापरली होती आपण तिथे? सांगा स्टेप सांगा मला कसं सॉल्व्ह केलं होतं? एक्झाम्पल डेफिनेशन 1 मी कसं सॉल्व्ह केलं होतं सांगाल का? केलं होतं का सॉल्व्ह? मला वाटतं माझा आवाज एकदम क्लिअर आहे. केलं होतं का सॉल्व्ह एक्झाम्पल? नाही केलं होतं तुम्ही?
Yes, ma'am.
काय केली ती मेथड सांगा, काय स्टेप्स वापरल्या होत्या आपण? काय स्टेप्स वापरल्या होत्या? माहित नाही आम्हाला म्हणणं. इथे काय स्टेप्स वापरल्या होत्या हे सांगितलं तर मी इथलं पुढचं सांगेन, नाही तर मी नाही सांगणार.
मॅम अप्पर इंटिग्रल फर्स्ट फाइंड केलतो, नंतर लोअर इंटिग्रल.
नाही, अप्पर इंटिग्रलच्या आधी काय केलं होतं? सुरुवात कशी केली होती?
पार्टिशन.
गुड. पार्टिशन. कसे पार्टिशन केले होते? कशा प्रकारचं पार्टिशन केलं होतं?
x0 x1 up to xn.
हे आर्बिट्ररी पार्टिशन झालं ना. आपण सॉल्व्ह करताना कसं केलं होतं? एन इक्वल पार्टिशन्स केले होते ना दिलेल्या इंटरवलचे.
Yes, ma'am.
हो मॅम.
मग आताही आपण ते तसंच करायचं इथे. एन इक्वल पार्टिशन करायचे 1 to 2 या इंटरवलचे आणि एसपीएफ शोधायचं आहे. ओके. एसपीएफ शोधल्यानंतर त्याचा फक्त लिमिट चेक करायचा. संपलं. एवढंच एक्झाम्पल आहे. मग हे एक्झाम्पल सोपं, म्हणजे ही पद्धत सोपी आहे तुम्हाला सॉल्व्ह करण्यासाठी. ओके. इज दॅट ओके? लेट मी मेक सम एन इक्वल पार्टिशन्स ऑफ द इंटरवल 1 to 2. सांगा कशा एन इक्वल पार्टिशन्स येतील? एन इक्वल पार्टिशन्स कसे करायचे तुझ्याकडे? इथला पॉइंट कसा असेल? पुढचा पॉइंट प्रत्येक सब इंटरवलची लेंथ किती येईल?
1 plus 1 by n.
Yes, it is 1 plus 1 by n. Next. Next point काय?
1 plus 2 by n.
1 plus 2 by n.
In general, ith किती येईल?
1 plus I by
आणि शेवटचा 1 plus 1 by n by n म्हणजे 2 येईल. बरोबर ना?
Yes, ma'am.
Now let's say given that f of x is defined as 7x plus 3. Okay. Let P be the partition we were going to write. How can I write the partition? 1 plus 1 by n, 1 plus 2 by n up to 1 plus I by n till 1 plus 1 by n by n, that is to be a partition. Okay, be a partition of closed interval 1 to 2 which divides into n equal parts. Correct na?
Yes, ma'am.
Then what is the length of the interval delta xi?
1 by n.
Length of the interval. Yes, it is
1 by
1 by n. Okay. It is, yes, it is 1 by n. Can anyone tell me what are the coordinates of xi minus 1 and xi?
1 plus
xi काय असतो? कुठला सांगता xi का xi1 असतो? हा फर्स्ट पॉइंट आहे ना x1, हा x2 आहे, हा xi आहे, हा xn. xi काय येईल
1
माझा
plus
1
I
प्लस
minus 1 I by n.
राईट. ओके, हे झाले पॉइंट. तीनच गोष्टी लागणार आपल्याला, डेल्टा xi आणि xi मायनस 1. कन्सिडर, काय कन्सिडर करणार मी? एसपीएफच डायरेक्टली. काय मध्ये डेफिनेशन एसपीएफ ची? हा, इथे एक सिलेक्ट करावं लागेल. लेट टी आय काय घेणार तुम्ही? टी आय काय आहे? आर्बिटरी पॉइंट ऑफ द आयथ सब इंटरवल ना. काही पॉइंट घेऊ शकता तुम्ही आयथ सब इंटरवल मधला. आयथ सब इंटरवल कुठे आहे माझा? इथून इथेपर्यंत समजा आयथ सब इंटरवल. तर आपण टी आय काय घेणार आहोत? कुठलाही एक पॉइंट घेणार आहोत त्याच्यातला. मग तो टी आय काही पण घेऊ शकतो. आपण xi मायनस 1 पण घेऊ शकतो, xi पण घेऊ शकतो, किंवा मधला कुठलाही पॉइंट घेऊ शकतो. ओके, तर आपण इन जनरल काय करतो? एक तर पहिला एंड पॉइंट घ्यायचा, नाही तर दुसरा एंड पॉइंट घ्यायचा. तर जनरली मी सॉल्व्ह करताना टी आय हा xi घेते, म्हणजे आपल्याला कॅल्क्युलेशन सोपं होतं. इथं काय येणार माझा? एफ ऑफ xi डेल्टा xi. चेक काय करायचं आपल्याला? फक्त लिमिट एक्झिस्ट होते का, बस. बाकी काही चेक करायचं नाही. एफ ऑफ xi काय येईल सांगा मला? डेफिनेशन काय आहे? xi ची व्हॅल्यू काय आहे ते सांगा. एफ ऑफ 1 प्लस I by n. आणि डेल्टा
I
xi
upon
1 अपॉन n. करेक्ट ना? आता फंक्शन काय माझा? 7x+3 आहे ना. फंक्शन लिहायचा कसा इथे? मग आता काय येईल व्हॅल्यू? 7 1
7
प्लस,
into
हा बरोबर ना. Reason is f of x is defined as 7x plus 3. For f of 1 plus I upon n, I have defined as 7 times 1 plus I upon n into 1 by 3. Now this 1 by n is independent of I. You can take it out. What we remains with? I equals to 1 to n. Let us multiply by 7. This is 7 plus 7I upon n plus 3. Therefore, may I write this is 7I upon n plus 7 plus 3 is 10.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
yes ma'am.
Let us just calculate the sum value. How can I calculate the sum value? Let me just take the sum separately. Okay. If I wanted to take the sum over the first term, 7 upon n is independent of I. We remains with summation I equals to 1 to n I. Correct? Then 10 is independent of I. Maybe summation I equals to 1 to n 1. What are the values? Summation I किती येतो?
n into n plus 1 divided by 2.
n plus 1 divided by 2. And summation 1?
n.
Yes, it is n, because 1 plus 1 taken n times. Therefore, this is n actually. Okay, don't write it as 1. Let us make some simplification. Let me cancel this n. Okay, and one can divide by this n into a bracket. If I divide by this, let me write 7 by 2 as it is. N plus 1 is divided by n. Is it 1 plus 1 upon n? And then this n is get cancelled, plus 10 will remember this. Okay. What is the next step? Taking limit. What limit I have to take?
n tends to 0. n tends to infinity.
n tends to infinity. Mu p tends to 0.
Infinity.
But इथं mu p कुठे नाही ना राईटला आपल्याला. n tends to infinity घेऊ. काय येईल? लिमिट सांगा. 7 upon 2 1 plus 0 plus 10. किती येते व्हॅल्यू? 7 upon 2 plus 10. 27 upon 2. Check.
27
Inside.
2.
Limit exists or not? Limit exists. And what is this limiting value? Limiting value is nothing but the integration. Therefore, may I write integration 1 to 2 7x plus 3 dx is 27 upon 2. Hence the proof. येतं का? सोपं आहे ना हे?
Yes, ma'am.
If in exam the question is solve the integration and if the method is not given, I suggest you to use this Riemann sum method, not Darboux sum method. Definition 2 सोपी जाईल आपल्याला वापरायला. ओके, 2-3 एक्झाम्पल्स आहेत मी होमवर्कला बघा सॉल्व्ह करायचे सगळ्यांनी. ओके, 2-3 एक्झाम्पल्स दिलेले आहेत, ती ट्राय करा सॉल्व्ह करण्याची. एक मॉडेक्स एक्झाम्पल आहे, मी ते स्वतः घेईन नेक्स्ट लेक्चरला. ओके, थांबूया आपण. काही अडचण असेल तर विचारू शकता तुम्ही. Riemann sum method is easy. If it is not asked you to solve by which specific method, then it will be better to solve by Riemann sum method, not by Darboux sum. Because Darboux sum is also easy, but process is somewhat lengthy. Actually, it will be finished within half of time, that of Darboux sum method. Any difficulty with this?
No, ma'am.
No.
Okay, let us stop then. Thank you.